We thank you so much for watching Voices of the Bar, where the legal world speaks. We want today to discuss with you the Lancaster and Marlborough, these two conferences that were as a result of our preparation for our independence. At that time, Uganda had become ready to get independence, and I want to go step by step under the Lancaster and the Marlborough. We ask you to subscribe to this channel. Don't watch minus subscribing to this channel, but we thank you for those who have subscribed and those who are sending in comments, giving us a like, a thumbs up. We really appreciate you. So we want to discuss the Lancaster and Marlborough conferences. But before I even enter into them, I want to tell you, it was a norm for the British, for every country they had colonized. When they were preparing for your independence, they would invite you to their country. And that invitation to their country was to prepare you for independence. It is notably remarkable that in 1952, there was an introduction of Sir Andrew Cohen in this country to become a governor. When Andrew Cohen was a governor, his role was simple: to speed up the independence of Uganda, because at that time, political parties had risen. We had come from the Bataka grievances. We had had the Asian questions. We have had political parties emerging, sensitizing many people. So at that particular time, the British were overwhelmed. Remember, we were from the World War 1945. It had just ended. They had been stretched. They had killed their people. They had spent a lot. So they had issues in their country. And what they did for Africa was to speed up the process for independence in every country. And that explains how we get the World Commission and the Munster Commission to prepare us. Those were constitutional and relationship committees to prepare us for independence. And when the committees, that is the Wild and Munster, when they were ready to, when they are designed and the constitutional reforms were all ready, we now went to Lancaster. So at Lancaster, it was a norm by the British that when they are going to give you independence, they take you to their area. So they would carry us to Lancaster and then organize on how they are going to give you your independence. At the end of this video, I'll give you the views of other scholars, like now the late Professor Kanyeyamba, his view on this format of taking us to England and preparing for independence. By the end of this video, I'll give you the view of the Landy professor, now the late, may his soul rest in peace. We shall miss you, the Land professor, the Justice of the Supreme Court, the chairman of the CA that drafted this constitution that we run today. We shall always remember you. You left a indelible mark on our country, and we shall miss you. May your soul rest in peace, the Land professor. So let's begin with the Lancaster. So now we are in England. This was led by Ben Chwanuka. He was the chief minister at the time when we go to Lancaster in 1961. Now, because Ben Chwanuka was the chief minister, we were represented by all the regions. The Baganda were there, the Banyoro were there, the Ankole were there, Toro were there, the Basoga were there. UPC were other political parties. UPC was represented. This was the opposition. At the time, UPC, the Baganda were there, and of course, Her Majesty and the whole team of England, the British. Now, when we reached there, remember the committees, the issue to discuss now with the constitutional reforms. Remember the Munster Committee and the Wild Committee, they had already discussed they had already made proposals. So at Lancaster, one of the reasons was to pass, and indeed the executive, legislative, those all constitutional reforms, the judiciary were all created. They agreed on the format of government the way you see it today. They agreed on how our framework should look like, administrative framework in the country. But at Lancaster, significant things happened. Number one, there was an issue of the relationship of Buganda, okay, and Bunyoro, the issue of the lost county. That was never resolved. And the Bunyoro were arguing that all the 7 counties should be taken back to Bunyoro. This was their contestation. To the point that they left the meeting prematurely. Those were the Bunyoro. So this one became a point, the issue of the lost country. And when it became a point, so what they did, they instituted another committee. And that was the Molson Committee, headed by Sam Molson, to go and look into the issue of the lost county and then come back and give feedback. This was the role of the Muster Committee. Sorry, the Molson Committee, which was created at Lancaster. Note, at Lancaster, we have a creation of the Molson Committee to go and look into the issue of the lost county, to tell us what should we do. It was given time, and it was supposed to come back in 3 months to report what they had found out and what we could do for this issue. So, that was the first issue. The second issue that came up was the issue of direct elections. That the Baganda had boycotted the 1961 elections, claiming that for them they wanted indirect elections. But the chief minister, who was the head of delegation and the president of the Democratic Party, Ben Chwanuka, opposed this, saying that allowing indirect election would be against the franchise of the people of Buganda. So he was supporting direct elections, which Buganda argued, and even named him names. A non-Muganda Baganda. That he was not propaganda, yet he was a Muganda. So Ben Chwanuka strongly argued that we could not allow this to happen. By doing so, the counties, the Buyaga, the Bunyoro, the Bulemezi, the Buwekula, which had come here, had many people. Those people would not be represented because the Baganda wanted the people that would champion their cause, people that would be on the side of Buganda, just to be appointed indirectly. So Ben Chwanuka strongly opposed this. Now, when Ben opposed this, a very brilliant man in the names of Apollo Milton Obote supported Buganda on the issue of indirect elections. And the Baganda felt Obote was on their side, yet their own Muganda was not on their side. So it was at this Lancaster that we see the growth of a marriage of convenience, the Kabaka, the UPC Kabaka Yeka Alliance. It also grew up at this conference, Lancaster. We see a relationship coming up, a very strong relationship between the Baganda and UPC, Kabaka Yeka and UPC. Eventually, Ben Chwanuka was one, okay? Because at that time, the Baganda requested for an election after the conference, and that election saw UPC getting 37 votes, DP 24, and Buganda 21. So, but because UPC had 37 and Buganda 21, they merged their votes to make 58 and the DP at 24. And that is how, when we go to Marubaru, Obote now is the prime minister, becomes the chief minister. On the second conference, Obote had become a second minister. But the challenge came because Ben Chiwanuka had not supported Buganda on the issue of direct elections. Okay? Now, from that step, we have seen the creation of the Monson Committee and also the marriage of convenience, Kabaka Eka UPC alliance. Now, questions would come asking you to discuss the Kabaka Yeka, okay, the effects of the Kabaka Yeka and the Kabaka Yeka UPC alliance. Let me ask you to discuss the impact of Kabaka Yeka. So the first thing you do, and UPC alliance, in simple terms, they're asking you for the effects of the 1966 crisis, because this was the start. This was the start of the crisis, because this alliance later turned out to be hostile to all of them that were able to enter into the crisis in 1966. So take note of the Lancaster event. Okay, now we leave Lancaster. When the Banyoro have left, they don't want to be in that meeting, which is not giving them their counties. When Ben Chiwanuka has been dropped as the chief minister, now the chief minister is Milton Obote. Now we go to Marubaru. Now at Marubaru, the issue now, there were also issues to handle. But at Marubaru, but before we leave Lancaster, it was said that we should get independence in exactly 1 year. Is one of the other terms which was set at Lancaster. Now, we come at Marubaru in June 1962 to get the report of the Monson Committee. So on our agenda, we had the Monson Committee report, but also we had an issue of Ankwoli, Toro, and Bunyoro, which they were saying Buganda has already been given a federal system. Buganda was to be a federal state. And so they were also asking, what are we taking? And it was in this that they also confirmed